Good to be here. Congratulations to all of my fellow speakers who have been talking about transformation, design thinking, innovative stuff. Although there's something that is sorely missing from the conversation, and that is organizational culture. And the reason for that, why it's very important, is that 93% of these wonderful things that we're talking about solely go down the drain, because it is not happening. It goes to fail. 93% of the stuff is going to fail. And considering the fact that 70% of the CEOs currently in their position have the mandate to actually go through some kind of transformation or help the companies through some kind of transformation, this is a pretty bad thing to say. And surely enough, you know, company culture and organizational culture can be either stairways to heaven or, you know, pretty badly, a highway to hell. But we hardly ever talk about, I mean, we throw the word around, organizational culture, but we don't really know what we mean by that. And organizational culture is basically a story we keep telling to ourselves and to our colleagues among ourselves, what we do at the company, how we view our competitors, how do we approach to certain things like success, like failure, like new initiatives, like new projects, like each other. How do we think about appointments, gender balance, stuff like that, or even like work and life balance as well. So that is quite a big topic that we're talking about right now. And if you look at that, the majority of the companies are taking into their stride the measurement of stuff. How do we measure organizational culture? And I beg you, stop using satisfaction and engagement surveys. Those of you, all of you are, you know, how many of you are in a relationship? Please, hands up. Just, I'm not checking, not Tinder, just... Thank you, I'm happily married. Okay, so those of you who are in steady relationships, just tell me the difference between satisfaction and actually doing something for that relationship. I'm sure, especially the ladies, understand what I'm talking about. Engagement and satisfaction is not going to tell you how much you can change within a relationship, whether you're going to embrace transformation, new ideas and stuff. This is why I'm very much against that we're still engagement and satisfaction surveys to this day to measure our company's culture. And sure enough, they are not going to, I mean, you can see Amazon obviously is not going to bite the dust like economically, but from a corporate culture point of view, all these companies, just a couple of them, and I had the courtesy of taking a few of them down, so I'm not going to get into an argument with my fellow speakers, but I have to tell you that these companies end up in the newspapers because of their terrible, terrible culture. Amnesty International, that is supposed to, you know, be the champion of human rights, people kill themselves because of the transformation that they are doing. They're doing it wrong. And they are disregard people. They do not inform people. There are silos that we're talking about. And obviously the same goes for other companies as well. I love theory as much as, you know, most of you. But I brought you a couple of stuff that are real-life examples of how a robust and also very delicate thing is organizational culture and what it can really screw up and what it can really help. So one of our clients is working in the Middle East. It's a traditional bank. A new guy came on board and multi-channel. He had all this, you know, design thinking, fancy stuff that he's going to introduce, and they're going to come up with a product in 5 months. He had 5 different teams, one without a team head. Obviously, HR was very slow to provide a new guy. Sure enough, one week before the whole product launch was about to happen, this new guy came on board. And on his very first day, he ran to the head of multi-channel saying that we're in big trouble. It's not going to fly. The product is going to go bust because there's some whatever itsy-bitsy difficulty that is going to bring the whole thing down. Now, what happened was, obviously, the head of multi-channel got really panicked, what happened. And what happened was that there were two guys who realized at the very beginning of the project that something is not going to go well. But the thing is that they had been socialized in their previous years of working for this bank that they can only talk to the team head. And they didn't want to jump ranks because they didn't have a team head. Sure enough, when the new team head was on board, the first thing they did, they went to him. 5 months of building a product went down the drain, so much so that, all the panic, the desperation, the resentment that went on needed a special task force to, sort it out. And what happened was that in 1 month's time, their competitor came out with the exact same product. My second one. There's this company that is in Europe, also a lot of outlets in the US. They were going for IPO. And before that, the whole middle management, really talented young people for extraordinary results that they put down the table, they were supposed to go to San Francisco for an incentive trip. 17 hours before they were about to board the plane, there was an email sent by the CEO, sorry guys, it's not going to happen, it's cancelled. Good thing it's going to be a Friday, you can start working for your next year's results. Everybody was upset, they kept asking, their direct bosses what was going on. Nobody knew the answer, the CEO couldn't be reached, etc. 3 weeks after this, 2/3 of the middle management walked out of the company. Couldn't go for IPO because they couldn't secure the talent and they couldn't secure the results. So sure enough, they had to start all over again. Okay, now I'm accused by different people in different conferences that I'm very much against Agile, which is not true at all. Having said that, I do have an itsy-bitsy problem with that. It's because the big consulting companies go in, sell their stuff, the off-the-shelf stuff, without actually understanding what's going on in the culture, without actually knowing what's happening. Let me just give you a tiny, tiny example. What do we do in normal companies? When you commit a mistake, when you do something bad, you obviously try to hide it first, then try to fix it, and then, you talk to someone you really trust, and then at the end, if you really, really, really need to, you come out to your boss. When we're talking about Agile, Agile is something that we celebrate. Agile, a mistake, we're fantastic. This is the way we're not going. We need to go to the other way. So this is a completely different mindset. Just because we're learning the ceremonies for a whole year and learn how to do proper stand-up, that does not mean that our mind is going to change around certain stuff that we had been doing previously for decades. Okay, rock stars versus superstars. This is the second time I'm showing you Google. There's going to be a third one as well. The second time is because we represent rock stars and superstars. Rock stars are the people who are the rocks, the foundations of a company, who you can rely on. They are not very ambitious people, but they are really hardworking people who are the experts and you can rely on, and they represent the legacy, the history of the company. Superstars are the ones who come on board extremely, extremely, extremely intelligent, but in 3 months' time is going to show up to you and say, okay, what's my next step? What's my appointment? What Google did was really, really concentrating on superstars and completely neglecting the rock stars. And all of the performance analysis and performance management systems, they favored the superstars. And it became a very aggressive company culture because obviously everybody wanted to be a superstar and get ahead. And while they were concentrating, they kept losing rock stars, the real good ones that they could rely on, where they had the knowledge, the know-how, the legacy. And there should be a really good balance between the two of them. We talk about digitalization a lot. And I would like to debunk this mystery. We are digitalized. It doesn't matter how old you are. You have your phone with you. That means that you're digitalized. That means that you are a consumer, you are a client, you are a customer, because you expect certain things to show up on your phone. And it's not just Candy Crush. We're talking about different, I'm an addict, sorry. And we're talking about certain stuff that, you behave like a consumer. You know that as a digital client, what you expect from certain services. But the thing is that when you get into your office, and I'm talking about bankers, legacy bankers, when you step into your office, you shed your coat and you shed your customer experience, digital customer experience with it as well. And this is the thing that we shouldn't let happen, because the good company culture is the one that embraces you as a whole, that where you can bring your whole self to. And what is the solution or the focus point that I'm advocating here? The thing is that we heard, and I'm sure, especially if you're active on LinkedIn, I'm sure that you've seen many, many articles about psychological safety. Psychological safety, and this is when I'm mentioning Google the last time. Google had a project going for 2 years trying to find out which teams are working better. And what they found was that skill-wise, competence-wise, they can be absolutely the same. The reason why one of the guys or one of the teams are doing extremely well, delivering on time, getting on really well, and the other is not, is down to safety, psychological safety. One of the things is vulnerability, that you can come as you are. It's not like HR cherry picks what sort of things he wants from you, but you can bring your whole self that could come really, really well at certain points. So you don't have to hide it. You can ask questions 10 times because you are not going to have a feeling that you are being stupid. Interdependence, which is much more than trust. Interdependence means that we are able to actually take the fall for someone else. Or if we fall, we know that someone's going to catch us. It's extremely important that it's more than trust, because trust is not active, it's a passive thing. Me and you, we trust each other. Interdependence is that much more, because it involves action as well. Self-representation. I fully know what I bring to the table. I absolutely do know. I know my faults, I know my strengths, but I do know what I bring to the table. And I know that of everybody else. This is also helping me to learn on the go. How many times do we enter a meeting when we have absolutely no idea what's going to happen? But the thing is, if you fear that you're not enough, you're not contributing, that means that you're closing yourself off to an experience which is learning on the go as we go, learning from each other, daring to be vulnerable in front of each other. That's extremely important. Clarity, we talked about, how we see each other, how we see ourselves in that. But obviously, clarity also refers to the structures, clarity, transparency about what we're doing, how the customers wants us to do, who's conversing with who, what do we punish, what do we command, a lot of things. So we are completely transparent in this situation. Risk-taking. Risk-taking is also something that, it's good if you have a team where not everybody is risk-taker. I'm sure that you see the value of that, or risk-averse for that matter, because then obviously innovation is not going to happen. And managing uncertainty, which is involved in a situation where you don't know all the answers, but you want to get the answers because that is something that is driving you. When was the last time, if you look at all these, vulnerability, interdependence, stuff like that, when was the last time when you in your life felt that you were looking for your place in the world, to see if you were enough, if the skills, the competencies, the feelings, everything that is about you, where does it fit? Were there uncertainties? You didn't know the questions? Were there things that you had to take a risk for? I bet you it was the last time when you were a teenager, and that was a long time. Yes, I know, it was longer for me, but yeah, it was a long, long time. And I have to tell you that sometimes we need to go back to this sort of feeling or situation and relive that to have a proper understanding of who we are and what psychological safety means for us. And I'm going to show you now a short video clip about a situation where you're going to see diverse people not feeling vulnerable, but giving their best and all, taking for what they are, absolutely handling uncertainties in a way that, brings a really joyous experience for everyone.